Welcome everyone to Torah with your host, Rabbi Anibal. I am in defrost mode. Just came from the cemetery, did a funeral, and it's not cold, but it's raining.
Rain in the middle of February.
It's been raining for the last 3 days in the middle of February. Some people told me, Rabbi, you have to imagine you live in Vancouver. Okay?
That's about it.
I don't know. And I was thinking, what do I prefer? The rain like this?
This is healthier.
Or-
well, it used to be.
Or the snow and I don't know. This rain was brutal.
I'd rather have.
Anyway, thank you everyone for taking the time to connect with us. Thank you, Shelley, for coming. Right?
Thank you.
You need to come to synagogue to say the Birkat HaGomel.
We'll see. I'm limiting myself to one thing a day.
No, but Saturday. Come and say Birkat HaGomel. It's Shelley Chochinov is here after how many weeks off?
5.
5 weeks.
Almost 6.
5 weeks dealing with resilient bug, COVID, for 5 weeks. Can you believe it? So glad that you're finally here. And welcome to, who's here? David and Brenda Grossman. Thank you for connecting. And if there is anybody else there, because the numbers don't lie, I can see all the socials combined and there is more than the Grossman here. So please say hello. Well, Brenda Grossman says, in Plano, the sun is shining and it's 21 degrees Celsius. Well, Brenda, we are not talking about Plano. We are talking about Vancouver versus Winnipeg. It's the only thing we can, try to...
As opposed to Halifax, which had 30 inches of snow.
Well, yeah, you never know these days. You never know. Holly Mandelkern is here as well. Welcome, Holly. So let's wait a couple of more minutes and then we are going to start studying Parsha Mishpatim, which is, I always like to call it, the first Parsha after the Ten Commandments. And this is very important because it gives us a feeling that the Ten Commandments is not the end, it's the beginning, okay? And while the Ten Commandments are very explicit and direct and straight to the point, and as I was mentioning on Saturday, the Ten Commandments are not suggestions, are not up to negotiation. You cannot make them relative. They're absolutes, Ten Commandments. I mean, Ten Commandments says that you have to honor your parents. Well, but you have to honor your parents. Okay? It doesn't say you have to love them.
It's not negotiable.
But you have to honor them. That's non-negotiable. Interestingly enough, for example, when it said you should not steal, you know that it actually, the correct translation is you should not kidnap, because it's talking about people. So the rabbis understand that you should not steal it, you should not steal people, right? And then you say, well, maybe, but in the context, no, you can make it relative. It's a no. I'm mentioning this because all the commandments in the book, they continue now on Mishpatim, that they are civil commandments. They are not so clear on the extent, and they are not so clear how to apply them. So there is more room for interpretation here. These are the things that you will go to yeshiva and to study and to discuss. All these civil laws, things that, who is here? Randy's here. Thank you for the joke you sent me, Randy. It was very funny. I'll share it with Shelley after. Judge Pollack is here in Palm Springs. It's like Plano, but more mellow. What does it mean, mellow? What do you mean, mellow? I never understand Rocky. Rocky's so cryptic.
I understand Mellow. He's probably sitting beside the pool, sipping something.
Oh, okay.
Mellow.
And Josue Selva said, El Niño drought. It's not a drought, it's very wet. It's very wet. It's just
climate change.
It's just that it's not wet and cold. It's wet and what is it, +3 now?
Yeah.
And it's been like this for like 3-4 days. It's unreal. This past Saturday, we have Priscilla. I don't know if she's in the class today. Our favorite acupuncturist.
Yes, yes.
She came from Brazil. I don't know, 15 years ago or so, and she was celebrating the anniversary, and she remembered that when she came in February, it was something like minus 40, right?
Real
And she
recent.
came to synagogue to celebrate her anniversary for immigration, and it was plus temperature. I said, what's going on? Brenda Grossman said, "Is it slippery?"
Yes.
It wasn't slippery today. It was just like
Well,
a
because
soupy.
It's covering the ice that was there, which is gradually, but by tonight it'll be slippery again.
Yeah, there are places that the ice and snow are totally gone. If you see here, we still see snow because there are a lot of shadows from the building here in the yard. But if you go to open places like parks and things, some places the snow is gone.
My garden.
It's gone. I don't know. I mean, for me, I won't complain unless mosquitoes start waking up,
Could be.
or wasps or something like that. I don't know.
Don't say that.
I don't know if they are going to react. How do animals react to this? The one that sleep during the winter.
Usually the sunlight, hours of
Sunlight,
light and dark.
but not temperature.
But
I don't
now,
know.
because it's been so great for such a long time, it could disturb their cycle.
Anyway,
I don't know.
so let's study. Let's study this week's parsha. That's why you guys are here. So it's Mishpatim. We're going to continue with more commandments, except that they are not going to be on the spiritual category of the revelation. Okay. To me, it's fascinating to notice the contrast. The contrast between the spirituality of the revelation, right, and the down-to-earth
Basic.
things that we are going to study in this parsha. So, yeah, I want to go. Let's get to it, and you will see exactly what I'm talking about. After we study the revelation and God spoke, and they saw the words. How? They said Ra'u et hakolot. They were able to see the words. Well, unless they have subtitles or something.
Well, that was a different movie.
We don't really know what it means. Usually my interpretation is that sometimes the problem with communication is that when we are talking to each other, we are trying to imagine, to understand the concept, right? And we fail in the way we communicate, so later on in the communication, we understand that the people who are listening to us are not getting it because they are imagining the wrong thing. So maybe the message that it was communicated to them by God was so perfect that they would clearly see the picture of what's being communicated.
There were no other influences to crowd their understanding.
But we are not really sure what that means. Welcome, Amparo. Welcome to the class. But let's go now to this down-to-earth law from Exodus chapter 21, verse 33. Listen what it says. He says, if someone removes the cover from a cistern or digs one, or you dig a cistern, and fails to cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls in, the owner of the cistern must make good the loss by compensating the animal's owner.
Straightforward.
But the dead animal will belong to whoever dug the cistern, okay? The Torah says.
Assuming it survives.
Yeah, but to me, the first thing you realize with this kind of law, that it seems so disconnected with the spirituality of the first revelation. This is something
I
just,
see what you mean.
this is civil law.
Yeah.
This is like the municipal bylaw, right? If you dig a hole, you have to cover it, right? If you don't cover it and somebody has an accident, you're
your
liable.
problem.
It's your responsibility
That's right.
to cover. Don't say, well, I dug it, but it's up to the city to do that. No, it said whoever is digging it has to be sure that nobody will fall. And you will see in the same parsha there is another section that it would say that you need to put
A barrier.
a barrier
fence,
on the
a
roof.
warning.
If somebody in your roof falls because you failed to put that, it's your responsibility.
Not like an air roof, but something else.
In your property,
Okay.
to prevent anybody from falling from your roof. Amazing laws if you think about this. Back in the day that you already have this concept of bylaws to make cities safer. Okay? Even though this was given before they even started to build the cities. They were in the desert, living in tents or in Sukkot, if you want, right? Honestly, they wouldn't be digging cisterns for another 40 years.
But they understood that they needed certain mechanisms of social control. And these kinds of civil laws were
Yeah.
done, just like having early medicine, early doctors. It was a way of building a cohesive society.
Even before they started.
That's right.
But it's amazing how you say God already had this vision of what was going to happen, and they already got all the instructions from God to minimize risks.
Yeah.
Okay? So, but the other thing that is amazing here is how the parsha is taking care not only of people but also animals.
All living things.
Because basically you could say, well, you have to be careful that no person will fall into your cistern, but the example that it gives is an animal. And then the rabbis always will say, well, if we should prevent an animal from falling, kal vachomer, even more so, a person, right? So, but the animal, and I think it's telling you here that in general, it will be in many places in the Torah, there were this kind of awareness, right, of animal suffering. That you have to be careful. That you will talk eventually about the load on top of animals and stuff like that. You have to be. There was an awareness, if you want, of animal cruelty and leaving a cistern open for an animal that it doesn't think like a human being, right? You say, oh, that's a cistern.
I'm going to walk around it.
You know, the awareness of that fall into the laws to prevent animal cruelty.
But earlier on, even before Exodus, when Hashem says, your manservant, your maidservant, all of your animals, and it even cites some of the beasts. So that comes even in before it talks about.
Oh yeah, there are many places that the animals will be mentioned. And Rocky says here, the principle is to minimize risk and prevent unjust enrichment. Unjust enrichment. Yeah, but I guess if you compensate the person from the animal, you can't take the compensation and the dead animal. It's but the Talmud, then if you go, it will discuss all the details.
Money off the misfortune.
It will be, the Talmud will regulate that, but it's beyond the scope of this class, all those details, okay? But again, if you go to yeshiva, this is a big part of the study, all these laws, okay?
Yeah.
So let's continue, and let's go to Baba Kama. All this Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, they all talk about these kind of things. Now, Baba Kama will say, we learn in the Beraita. Quick review. Let's see, you guys, if you've been paying attention. What is a Beraita?
Oh, I think the conversation is called Beraita 46b. Blah,
No,
blah, blah,
the
blah.
Beraita is
And it
never.
was-
No, the Beraita never comes with a chapter and verse, because the Beraitas were pieces of oral law, okay,
Yeah.
equivalent to the Mishnah,
Right.
but they never made it to the Mishnah. But they are quoted in the Gemara. Okay, let me rephrase that. And let's see, guys,
I understand what you're
this is
saying.
for all
How
of you
do
to
we
remember.
identify one from the other?
Oh, because every time that there is a baraita, the rabbis will say, there is a baraita that says,
Okay.
okay, the Mishnah come with
So it
chapters
starts-
and all that.
Yeah. So it starts off with the first couple words so you know exactly
But
what.
the baraitas were never edited and printed in a separate edition, in a separate book. The Mishnayot
Yeah. Word.
were, but they are the same intention of the baraita. It's the same thing. They are short sentences of oral law. Okay? Clear? That's what the baraita is. So here in Baba Kama, you see that the Talmud will say, we learned in a baraita. Why does it say that? Because a rabbi is about to give a statement, and then somebody will say, did you make that up? And then he said, no, I didn't make it up. He said, I learned it in a baraita. Okay, so listen to this baraita. It says like this: a person should not throw stones from his property into public grounds. Okay? So you understand what's going on here. So there is a law, it's oral law, it's not in the Torah, but it was given to the Jewish people through. Baraita is something that, in theory, was communicated from God to Moses orally. Okay? So we just learned in the Torah that you have to be careful not to dig a cistern and then to leave it uncovered because it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And then the Baraita will go even further than that. Not only that, you have to be careful never to throw stones from private property to public property, which could be very common, right? Like, you are
So you can't throw a stone at the animal to warn it.
No,
Don't fall-
nothing.
don't fall into the
Nothing
center.
to do with the animals now.
Okay.
Let's say that you are doing a reno in your house, and you take all the rubble, all the junk, and you throw it on the street. You know that in this day that's illegal. So you need to bring these
You
companies.
should tell that to my neighbors.
Well, you're supposed to rent a container. You dump everything there, they dump it, and then they will take it away. So the Baraita already said that 2,000 years ago. The Baraita said a person should not throw stones from his property into public grounds. But now listen to this story. It happens that a person was throwing stones from his property into public domain. Okay? Somebody was violating this Baraita. A pious man, what is a pious man? A religious person. Maybe a rabbi, maybe not. The Baraita doesn't say, just call it the pious man. Passed by and said to him, foolish one, why are you throwing stones from property that does not belong to onto grounds that does belong to you? You would think, what are you talking about? It's the opposite, right? It's the opposite. So the person who was listening, right, listen as he continues. The man laughed at him, right? He said, you're nuts. It's the opposite. As time went by, he had to sell his field, and when he was walking on those public ground, he stumbled over his own stones. He then exclaimed, that pious man was right when he said to me, why are you throwing stones from grounds that does not belong to you and to grounds that does belong to you? So
Because it's
basically,
my stone.
what the Talmud is saying is what we really believe that is public property. It also belongs to you. Don't say that you are throwing the stones because it doesn't belong to you, because you also use it. You also have to go by there.
Right.
It's not that it belongs to somebody else. You are a user of the same thing. So part of it belongs to you. And the house that you think that belongs to you, today you're there, maybe tomorrow you will be somewhere else. But the public place, it will be always available to you. So that's why if you see the title of this class, I wanted to call it My Property or Your Property, right? It's there is a blur. It's a blur there. And I believe that that's why sometimes we feel free to pollute the water or the environment, right? It's not mine.
You've lost sight of that concept.
Not the Talmud. 2,000 years ago already was saying,
But in modern times,
be careful what you
that
do to
concept.
what you think that is public because it's yours. It belongs to you.
Yep.
So when you pollute the ocean or you know,
The lake, whatever. the river.
or who knows what you put in the garbage, or things that you shouldn't put there, I say, I take it out of my house into something that is not mine. But the Talmud, Baba Kama, will say, no, it's yours. It's also yours. So you have to be careful. You have to be careful what you do. Okay? So I will continue. I'll listen to this. Someone who was renowned as the Tzaddik of Monsey. You know what is Monsey? In New York?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a frum neighborhood.
Very, very.
It's a very frum, very religious neighborhood. So you can imagine if somebody in a very frum New York neighborhood is called the tzaddik of the place. It's a big figure there, okay? So, someone who was renowned as the tzaddik of Monsey, Rabbi Mordechai Schwab, blessed memory right now, okay, was in front of his house with a large pair of pruning scissors. Okay? This seemed unbefitting or uncharacteristic for such a revered rabbi to be doing that kind of labor, in that kind of labor-intensive garden work. It's weird, right?
I don't think so.
Wait.
Keep the conversation going.
No.
I know,
This is,
I know what you're getting at.
but this is something that honestly,
Not nice for a rabbi to be doing this.
not for this
Menial
guy.
task.
Well, maybe for Sharizedek rabbi, but we are talking here about like a demigod
I'm
rabbi,
a North
right?
End girl.
Demigod rabbi, that caliber. But
I
he
understand.
himself went out to prune this. Let's see why. Okay, he was reaching for some high branches zealously and clipping away when he noticed that a woman was staring at him. He paused and beamed in her direction with his usual radiant countenance and told her, "It's a chesed. It's a chesed, an act of kindness." The woman came home and asked her husband, "What kindness is there in trimming a tree?" She guessed maybe there is some mystical dimension at play here, and extra branches are somehow painful for the tree. He thought for a moment and laughed. He told her that he was probably removing those branches that hung low from his property onto the sidewalk, and what he wanted was to simply make sure that his tree will not be the cause of somebody who will be strolling by, having their head knocked off their head or getting a poke in the eye. Nothing deeper than that.
Good answer. Good answer.
Well, nobody ever asked the rabbi, but that is
Good
just
answer.
guessing, right?
Yeah, good
But
answer.
but considering the rabbi said it's a chesed, right? He probably, he didn't want to. He realized maybe when he was walking, he realized that it's a danger, and he wanted to. Of course, a rabbi like that, believe me, in those communities, all he has to say, if he sits in his congregation, can anybody help me?
My
He will have
trees need trimming.
200 volunteers. But he didn't even want to wait for that. And he wanted to do it as soon as possible, because that's how we should all react
We show by example.
if there is a danger
We show by example.
to somebody else. Okay? If there is a danger. Hello, Eric. Welcome to the class. Welcome to the class. So it's very important for us to understand. Sometimes we forget our responsibility to public places,
community.
because again, we have to believe that because it's public, it doesn't belong to us. Okay? Now listen to this. Listen to this. This is a story from Rabbi Label Lamb. Do you know him?
I know the name.
He's a very interesting rabbi. Once in a while, I listen to his comments online. He records like a 1 minute long video cast, like a vlog, but it's 1 minute long. So it's, to me, it's very convenient. Sometimes I'm driving and I listen what he has to say, and sometimes it's even funny. But his voice is always so low and serious. Are you telling a joke or saying something? You never know. You never know. But he's a very interesting guy, very down to earth. Okay. And he was telling, once when I was a youngish yeshiva student during the holy month of Elul, the last month of the year before the holidays, which is the prelude to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, I was wearing a rather sour look on my face.
What happens?
Right? One of the rabbis approached me and asked me what the problem was. I said, Elul, Rabbi. Elul, what means so much to do, and Rosh Hashanah is around the corner. Thinking that will be enough of a justification for the extra serious face, he told me, Elul is what's going on in your heart. That's the private domain. Okay? Your face, though, is the public domain. It's what people can see. So Pirkei Avot says, greet every man with a pleasant and interested face. So what I wanted to bring this, because now we are taking the story of the cistern and the stones throwing as a metaphor, right? As a metaphor that there are other things that they are public and private, and we don't even realize about.
And the world doesn't need to know what you're thinking privately when you walk down the street.
It goes more than that, because the same way that they said, don't throw stones to the public place because somebody can stumble. Don't dig a cistern because somebody can fall, right? You have to be careful of what your face says, because people can stumble into that. You walk around with a sour face, right? And somebody say hi to you, and you go, hi.
Yeah.
Now you're ruining.
It's true.
Now
It's very true.
you ruined their day, right? Because now the person said, did I say something that offended this person? No, it's something going on. But so there is this. Hello, Jerome.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi, Felix.
Hi.
You missed only 33 minutes of the class.
What can I do?
Leave
Nothing.
the room. Leave the room. Go
You
stand
can
in the
replay.
corner.
You can replay it tonight at 8 p.m.
You have to go stand in the corner.
So my point is, this is huge in Musar.
Yeah.
Although it's not law, okay? It's not law, so you have to be very careful on your expression, because if somebody has a miserable day because of you, it's kind of your fault at this point. So that's why you will see many religious people that they it's difficult to read them, right? And they would say, "How are you doing?" What's the answer?
Fine.
No. Baruch Hashem. They will never tell you good or bad.
Yeah. So that's.
They will tell you good or bad. It's always Baruch Hashem.
You found my hat. I was looking all over for it. Thank you so much.
The hat? You have one like this?
No, I wish I did.
Okay.
And I'd like a hat like this, a Winnipeg Bomber hat.
So that would say that if you can, smile. If you can, smile. I said, but Rabbi, isn't that faking it? Yeah, it is.
There's a flip side to that.
But it's a chesed to other people.
There's a flip side to that. There are some people who put on a face that says, and I'm thinking of a particular instance in person, that says, don't come near me or I'll chew you up, whatever. And that kind of face makes people avoid you. And then you can't feel sorry for yourself that you have no whatever.
Now, listen to Rabbi
Which is the crux of it.
Rabbi Israel Salanter, who was a Musar master.
Yeah.
Okay? He said the following. Listen to this. One's face has the status of Reshut Harabim. That's the halachic name. Reshut Harabim. Public domain. If one walks around with a sour look on his face becomes a bor bireshut Harabim. What is a bor in Hebrew? Do you know what a bor is? A cistern. So a cistern or a pit in public domain. So for example, if you go to the mikvah, right, halachically,
Yes.
you know, the chamber containing the water and everything called the bor.
Yes. Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
The bor. So basically Salanter would say, a sour look on the face is a bor birshut Harabim, a pit in public area. And he is responsible for any damages caused to someone who falls or hurts himself on account of this pit. So it's connecting your face with the verse of this week's parsha, right? The cistern. Hey, I may write I may write a sermon about this Saturday
So the rabbi has a really sour look on his face.
because I did.
And it prevents someone from going and talking to him because I don't want to talk to him. He doesn't
Oh, yeah.
want to talk to anybody.
So you have to try to smile. I think it's a message, especially that many people coming here with a bor
Oh, no kidding.
in the public domain,
They do.
right?
They come to shul that way too.
Oh, anyway, yeah. So I would like to continue now with, let's move on to another verse, because you can tell that every single scene in this parsha is beautiful and we can learn a lot. Next one. It's also talking about a donkey. That's why I wanted to connect it, because the first one is that if the donkey falls, listen to this one. It says, if you see the donkey of someone you hate and you feel like refraining for assisting him,
Ah,
you must nevertheless help him. Okay? Interesting for different things. Number one, what do you mean you hate? Isn't that there is a mitzvah that you should not hate your neighbor, right? Instead, you should love your neighbor as yourself. But nevertheless, I think that
sometimes it's hard to do.
the Torah is being very realistic and pragmatic. And I said, you know, you may still have feelings, hurt of, you know, that you hate somebody, even though, you know. And I think this is what I want to say here.
But the poor animal didn't do anything to you.
And on top of that, what the Torah says is one thing is what you feel, and the other thing is what you have to do. Okay? Feelings are not forbidden. They will happen. The Torah cannot forbid you to feel something. That will be, sorry the word, stupid. That will be against human nature.
But as long as you don't express those feelings
Or
outwardly or physically.
or as soon as you don't sit on those feelings, and you will try to overcome the feelings or to change them. The same thing that the Torah can never say to you, don't be afraid. Okay? Well, fear will come to you eventually. Just don't let it stay. Find ways to get rid of it or to overcome it. How do you do that? Well, in Judaism, we have multiple ways. We have, you can read Tehillim, right? You can talk to God, and so forth. So even though the feeling comes, you don't let it stay. So here is saying, sometimes until that day comes and you cannot stop hating your neighbor, okay, at least you can change your behavior. Okay, so what fault the poor animal has to begin with? So if you see that the poor animal is suffering, and you know that the animal is technically property of your neighbor, so if something happens to the animal, yes, the animal will suffer, but your neighbor will suffer even more because it's damaged property now. If I don't like you and I go, I demolish your garage, right? You will suffer because it's your property. Yeah. And animals are properties in the Torah. But I said, number one, we just learned before, the Torah is against animal cruelty. And second, you have to control your behavior. The Torah cannot tell you what to feel, but the Torah can tell you what to do or not to do.
So to carry this poor animal that fell into the hole, into the pit, into the bowl, if you can't take it out, you can't help it, and the animal is injured, are you responsible for taking its life to put it out of its misery?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Other conversation?
I don't know about that, but if there is suffering, you have to try to help the animal. And then again, this is the beginning. This is the tip of the iceberg.
That's what I thought.
Because even if you do something to help the animal and you have to use your resources, you have to be compensated for everything you do. Okay? This is it's a huge topic.
It's a ganze Geschäft. Okay.
So Josue Salva said, "You hate the person, not the poor donkey." He said, "Remember Bilam?"
Yes.
And
Oh,
he said,
of course.
and he said, "Still, it was his wife." You know what he means with that? There's a midrash that said that Bilam's donkey was his wife.
Yes, I remember that
wife.
story. I remember that.
I will leave it there, and please don't use too much your imaginations. You can imagine, but not too much. Okay, so let's continue with this. Okay, I think you got the point. You got the point. Now let's read about what Hizkuni says about this. Okay, you are warned not to remain inactive when faced with the animal's distress, even if its owner is your enemy. Okay? This interpretation is also hinted at in Rashi's commentary on Deuteronomy 13:9, where he emphasizes that one's enemy is exempt from the commandment to love your fellow man as yourself. Okay? So basically it says that in case of war, they love your neighbor. It's different, right?
Yeah.
It's different. But it says, beyond that, forget about your neighbor. Now it's all about the animal. And the animals have feelings, the animal has to be taken care of. And if you see an animal in distress, doesn't matter if it's yours, doesn't matter if it belongs to somebody else you like, but if it belongs to somebody else you don't like. Your obligation is to help the animal. So you have to understand that many times the Torah will give as an example the lowest possible scenario. An animal that belongs to a person that you hate. Why is that? Because that covers all of the above. If I already say that, then the Torah doesn't have to come back and to say, if you see an animal of somebody who you do like, or if it's your animal, right? Yeah. If I tell you that you have to do it for somebody who you hate, even more so with somebody who you don't hate, even more so with somebody you love, even more so with your animals.
Yeah.
So always pay attention to this, how the way the Torah gives examples, sometimes with the lowest possible scenario, so it includes all of the above, because that principle is used a lot by the rabbis. Good. Good that you get that one. Let's continue. Okay, let's move on to another verse. And I like this one. And it's about lying. Okay? It's about lying. Sorry?
Prevaricating.
Can you lie in Judaism?
No?
Yes, you can.
Oh, well, there's the whole thing about a little white lie to save.
Yeah, we're going to study this. We're going to study this. We're going to study this. Yeah, it's not... The Exodus 23:7 says, keep away from lying. Doesn't say do not lie. Keep away from lying. Take distance from lying. And do not cause the death of the innocent and righteous, for I will not justify the wicked. Okay? So basically, there are two different things. Keep away from lying, and then the Torah, just in case, you will include the case where a lie can cause somebody else's death. For example, lying in a trial.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but this opens the door and say, okay, So why isn't the Torah explicit and say you should not lie? And then it will include all the cases, right? Why? Listen to this. Listen to this. In the Torah, it says, keep far from lying. The rabbis make a point of teaching that the text says, keep far from lying and not, do not lie. They explain that there are times when lying is acceptable. This usually involves, number one, making peace. We are going to see an example in a minute. Number two, protecting someone's life or property. Hey, somebody comes into your house, is running away from an assassin, okay? Somebody knocks and says, please help me. Somebody's trying to kill me. Yes, come in. You close the door. A minute later, another knock. You open. Somebody with a gun. Is so-and-so here? No, I didn't see anybody. If the Torah will say you should not lie, you will have to say, yeah, sure, it's in the bathroom. Right? So if somebody comes, in that case, of course you have to lie. You are protecting a life. So it's telling you here that protecting a life as a value ranks higher than telling the truth. Okay? And then the same also says sometimes you're allowed to say a white lie to protect someone's feeling. Right?
Yes, dear, it looks lovely on you.
I didn't say it, but you got the point. Somebody said, how do I look? Oh, it's amazing. Right? The opposite will be, your spouse come back to the house after going to the salon. And the first thing you said, oh, was it closed today? Never say that.
You'll sleep on the floor.
Even if that's what you think.
You'll sleep on the floor for the rest of your life.
Yeah. So these are okay. Guys, let's go back to this. These are general principles, but the details are very difficult. Okay, so most of the time, it's not clear when you can lie and when you cannot. Most of the time, it's not clear. Okay, Rocky Pollack said, so Torah draws the line at the lie that causes a wrongful punishment. For example, Rocky, can you give me an example? While we wait, I want to show you a few examples of this, especially the one that is not so clear here, that is making peace. Okay? A little lie to make peace. And
Here we are.
But before we do that, let me remind you that even God lied. Oh, I said lie that causes a false imprisonment. Well, you cannot lie, so somebody will be put into jail. And I think when you go to court, right? When you go to court, and you have to swear. So in that case, that takes priority. So you have to say the truth and nothing but the truth. That's why. I guess that's why that question is there.
That's right.
Right? Just in case that there is no conflict of values.
So the consequences for perjury and lying can be very severe, both for the person that's being accused of whatever they're being accused of, and the person who's doing the lying.
Because you may think, well, if I don't lie, this person may be put to death. Okay?
Well.
So by lying, I'm saving his life. No, in a trial, you have to say the truth. That's why I said those 3 points that I mentioned were general principles, but they are guidelines of how to do it. So you have to be very careful. All I want to say is that there is the possibility, okay, in case of extreme need. So let me give you an example when God lied. Let's go back all the way to Genesis, okay? Listen to this. This is when Abraham was told by the angels that he was going to be a daddy, remember?
Yes.
And Sarah was listening behind the door. So they, the angels, said to Abraham, "Where is your wife Sarah?" And he replied, "Back there in the tent." Then one said, "I will return to you next year, and your wife Sarah shall have a son." Okay? By this time next year, she will have a son. Sarah was listening at the entrance of the tent, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in years. Sarah had stopped having the periods of women. And Sarah laughed to herself, saying, but listen what she said, "I'm no longer able to have children, and my husband is old."
In other words, it's not likely he's going to have any either.
Yeah, the blue pill hasn't been invented yet, right? So it's not going to happen. Then the Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and said, 'Me giving birth at my age?'" That's not what she said.
That's right. That's not what she said.
She said, "Hey, he's too old," right? But why didn't God say that?
He didn't say who the mother was going to be.
The rabbi said God said this to protect her feelings. He didn't have to share that information because that will create a fight between husband and wife. Shalom Bait. I brought this before when we studied Shalom Bait in this class.
Yeah.
But it's important once in a while to remember how important it is to preserve the peace. Sometimes you can get a white lie here and there. Let me give you another example of a white lie. Before, Josue Salva, you said, if someone comes to jail home asking for Sisera, should she say he was not there? Or sometimes if somebody comes to kill somebody,
That's Caesar's wife.
yeah, but to lie. But again, sometimes we always, right, try to analyze the exception or the difficult cases. Most cases are easy to know when you can lie and when not. Let's continue. Now, the other one who used to lie according to the Midrash was Aaron, Moses' brother. How so? Listen to this. When two people quarreled, right? Aaron will go and sit down with one of them and say, "My son, look at what a state your friend is in. His heart is breaking. He is tearing his clothing and saying, 'Woe is me. How can I lift up my eyes and look at my friend? I am ashamed before him, for I was wrong.'" Did the person say that? Probably not, right? Wait, it gets better. And so Aaron will go and sit with him until he remove the resentment from him. Then Aaron will go and sit with the other one and say to him, my son, look at what a state your friend is in. His heart is breaking. He's tearing his clothes and saying, 'Woe is me. How can I lift up my eyes and look at my friend? I am ashamed before him, for I was in the wrong.' And so he will sit with him until he had removed the resentment from his heart.
He's trying to lay a guilt complex on both of them,
Listen,
so they'll kiss and make up.
Then when the two met the next time, they will embrace and kiss one another. Now he just made up
And they'll live happily ever after.
the story, right?
Yeah.
And even if they come up, if it comes up after that Aaron was lying, it's too late. They already made it. So it's very interesting. This is an example I usually given as a perfect example when it's okay to lie for the sake of peace. Okay, to make peace between two people. I don't think most of us are qualified as Aaron was. So we have to be very careful, because sometimes if you're not careful, it could backfire. Just put it up there.
Know what's in somebody's heart. And
Just
it's
put it
very hard to
up
know.
there. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm quoting other rabbis. Next. And yet, one more verse. Now we are going to chapter 24. Okay? Listen to this. This is one of the most famous phrases in the Torah when it says, then Moses took the record of the covenant and read it aloud to the people. The commandments. Moses read it to the people. And they said, what did they say? Na'aseh v'nishma. They said, all that God has spoken, we will faithfully do. Okay? Na'aseh v'nishma. This is when it was said. This is when it was said. And it's interesting because it's towards the end of the parsha. And this basically involves all the spiritual laws, let's put it that way, and all the civil laws. Everything that God said, we now understand is good for us. Everything. Not just the law to regulate society, not just the law to connect us with God. Because we all know that there are people that favor more one over the other. And that's why it's important to understand this Na'aseh v'nishma, that it involves both. It is important to fulfill the commandments that bring us closer to God, like observance of Shabbat, for example, right?
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And also fulfill the commandments that bring us together and regular society. Not to throw the stones on the public places. Take care of the donkey of your enemy, and so forth. Very important. Very important. Okay? So, listen to this. I love this one from Rabbi Yosef Dov Soloveitchik.
So I love Soloveitchik.
One of them. Well, how many Soloveitchiks are there?
Well, the
Many.
current Soloveitchik is quite a great teacher. I
They are-
some of his online classes.
There are lots of, it's a whole dynasty, right?
It is.
Okay. Why did each individual respond in the plural? Aha, listen to this now. Because Soloveitchik was somebody who paid attention also to the way it was written, just the grammar.
Yes.
Every letter is important here. Not only every word, every letter. He asked, look at this. Why did each individual respond in the plural? Na'aseh v'nishma. We will do and we will hear. If the Torah is talking about each individual, then the grammar is wrong.
And the Torah is the
Well, listen what he said. More correctly, each person should have said, E'eseh ve'eshma. That's correct Hebrew, proper Hebrew. I will do and I will hear. Even though everybody said the same thing, each one of them said, I will do, I will hear. How could they speak for everyone else? And he answers, because everyone made two commitments. Okay? One commitment was to personally observe the Torah. The second commitment was to take responsibility over his friend, to ensure that he will also keep the Torah faithfully. In other words, we are all responsible for each other. Doesn't mean that you have to constantly rebuke somebody who's not doing something. It also means that we have a collective responsibility. It means that the more we are all involved, whatever you don't do, I do. Whatever Jerome doesn't do, I do. Whatever I don't do, Jerome does. And so forth, right? Well, we need each other. That's why it's Na'aseh v'nishma.
to complete the task.
But it's like,
Yeah.
God, put us all together, and you will see that once you put us all together, we're all doing everything. Okay?
There's unity.
So that's we are pinch hitting for each other.
Yes.
But only if you put us all together. That's why we have the tradition that we never count people by pointing.
No.
Because the rabbi said when you point somebody, you attract private judgment. Okay? So we get away from this principle that God is taking us collectively. And now you're putting too much attention in one person. And then nobody can escape or nobody can be victorious in a one-on-one trial from God. We need each other to show that we can all do it, but only if we do it together. Individually, we can't. We can't fly solo in this world. Hello, Robert Didich. What? They just learned your name.
From whom?
Well, and this is the end. This is what I wanted to share with you guys. And yeah, and thank you so much for coming out. And to thank you all of you at home for tuning in. And just a quick reminder that the class will be rebroadcasted tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time. So, okay, so if you missed anything at the beginning, don't worry. Don't worry. You have the chance to replay the class tonight at 8 p.m. Central, where, when you can recatch it, okay?
And
So
it's an open book exam, so they don't have to worry.
thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. If you're in Winnipeg, go enjoy the weather before it changes again, or not. Because, I don't know, forecast said for 2 days, oh, we are going to have snow. Just rain. Thank you guys.
We need to.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Rabbi.
See you soon.